Welcome to Module 5. Up to this point, we've built something really powerful. We've designed an agent that can read real finance data, apply rules, and generate clean variance commentary. On its own, that's already a win. But right now, it still depends on you remembering to open a tool, upload files, and hit run. And that's not pure automation. It's delegation with extra steps. So in this module, we're going to fix that. This is where we introduce workflows. Specifically, we're going to use N8N to turn your agent into something that actually runs as part of the month-end close. Think of your agent as the analyst. Think of N8N as the operations manager that tells that analyst when to wake up, where to get data, and where to send the results. What we're building in this module is not a toy demo or a flashy AI trick. We're building a real month-end system. By the end of this module, you'll have a workflow where actuals arrive, the agent does the analysis, commentary is generated, and a management-ready close package is produced with minimal manual effort. We are not going to over-engineer this. We're also not going to build a fragile monster. We're going to build the simplest possible workflow that reliably saves you hours every single close. If you've ever thought, I don't need fancier tools, I just need this to stop being manual, then this module is for you. Let's turn your agent into infrastructure. I'm going to be walking you through step by step how to set up and get started with using N8N for finance automation. You will not believe how easy it is to get started and how quickly you can have it up and running. Now again, this is going to be the most basic guide to getting started with N8N for finance. If you have any experience with N8N, you can probably skip ahead to one of my other videos on things like AI agents or how to self-host it. This is going to be just the basics to get you from having no N8N experience to building your first automation. If you've built an automation, you can skip ahead to some of the other videos that I'm doing on N8N. So what is N8N? Well, N8N is a no-code automation tool that scales. That means that you don't have to write Python, you don't have to write R, you can do everything with drag and drop and build it with normal language. You don't need to be a coding expert to use this. It's going to connect all of your tools together: Excel, Power BI, ERPs, Slack, etc. As I mentioned, it's a visual workflow builder. You can drag and drop to automate. You might be familiar with other drag and drop tools. This will include things like there's Power Automate from Microsoft, there's Make, there's Zapier, there's all other tools out there. The big difference for N8N is that it is open source, unlike those other tools that are not. It's open source, it's flexible, which means your data, your rules. As you'll see, you can even self-host it, which gives you a lot more comfort around the security because you can put it on your servers instead of someone else. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it automates all of the boring stuff so you can focus on adding value and the things that really matter. Why is N8N so good for finance automation? Well, it can pull data from multiple systems and it can reconcile them automatically. A lot of the tools we have, like Power Query, are incredible and so powerful. They can bring data in, they can clean data, they can transform the data, but that's then the end of it and they'll move it into Excel. N8N gives us the ability to do other things with that data. We can move it to other systems once it's transformed. We can send emails, we can send Slacks. There's so many things you can do with the data to keep the process moving. Just like a lot of tools we have, you can clean, transform, and merge data, but you can also put in complex logic. You can put in approvals, thresholds, validations. Best of all, it's very affordable and secure because you can self-host it since it has an open source version. It also is very scalable. Make and Zapier and Power Automate have a lot of limits on the number of tokens or credits that you can run. N8N is really designed to scale. You can go beyond single analyst workflows and really automate company-wide processes, well beyond the limits of what a lot of other tools can handle off the shelf. So there's some use cases here that I want to really highlight for you. Think about things like a daily KPI report email. It can go get the KPI information from your source system, it can evaluate it, it can feed it through an AI tool, write commentary, and then send an email about it. You can do the same. You can have a monthly close manager that will let you know dynamically if you're ahead, if you're behind, what tasks you need to do. You can create budget variance alerts. This is actually highlighted because this is going to be the use case we built, because I know nearly everybody in finance has some level of budget versus actuals or some level of approvals they're doing. And this is going to show you how you can have N8N go get data from one system, evaluate that data with conditional logic, and then send an email based on that data if action needs to be taken. You can use this for invoice trackers, which tend to run across multiple systems, weekly forecast rollups. You can collect commentary via Slack, Teams, again, evaluate it, parse it through AI tools. You can even have it update exchange rates and pull them in dynamically whenever you need them for your workflows. There's so many options, but anytime you're moving data from one system to another, or if you're taking data from one system and creating emails, communication, those are perfect use cases for N8N. Now there's some terms that will be really helpful to know before we get started. Most importantly is a workflow. This is your entire automation. You build your workflow on what's called the canvas, just like in Power BI and Tableau. You've got your full automation and it's built from connected steps. The workflow is the entire process from the start of your automation to the end of your automation. Now within the workflow, you have nodes. This is a single step or an action. This is things like get data, send an email, make a decision. There's triggers. Now, triggers are a type of node, but they're a special type of node. They start the workflow or start parts of the workflow. This can be a time-based, like run every day at 8 a.m., or it can be based on if I get an email with budget in the subject line, start this process. There's lots of different options with triggers. An execution is every time your workflow is triggered and runs. That's an execution. And then credentials are the login info for the other systems that N8N is getting from. You can pull in from all kinds of different APIs, direct connects, there's lots of different options. And credentials are how N8N securely stores that information to go be able to query data from different systems, bring it together, and then send it back. If you know these 5 things, you're pretty well along the way of getting started with N8N. Now there's 2 different ways to set up N8N. Fastest way, but also the most expensive, is cloud setup. You can go right to N8N's website. They will sell you the entire plan. They'll sell you the software, the cloud hosting. You just sign up. It's ready to go. Very similar to a Power Automate, a Make, or a Zapier, but also comes with the price tag of those tools. It is great for learning and for smaller finance workflows, and it is fast. It's less customizable and it's less scalable. Now, self-hosted, this is what I do. This gives you more control, and bonus, it saves a ton of money. You can run this on your own server or a Docker container. It keeps all finance data in-house, which is a huge win for compliance, and it scales much better for larger sensitive automations because it's on your own server, and you'll make your IT team a lot happier because of the security and controls around having it in your own system. I'm going to walk you step by step through how to set up self-hosting through N8N in 2 different ways. In the first, we're going to do it the completely free way with a couple of extra steps. This is going to involve docking it right on your computer. In the second way, I'm going to show you how for a low amount of money every month, you can self-host N8N. So instead of paying 20, 30, 40, or even 200 a month for their cloud version, you can put it right on your own mini cloud, get all of the benefits while keeping it contained in your space and not signing yourself up for monthly fees. So here is the easy guide to getting started with self-hosting for N8N. So the 2 options we'll be going over today, one is free and harder, and one is a little bit of money and a lot easier. We'll look at both of them just depending on your budget, but I personally do the easier and small amount of money. We're talking literally a couple bucks a month. It's so much faster, but I also want to make sure you know the totally free version because it's great to be able to spend not a dime and get all this automation power. So for option 1, hosting with Docker, we're going to install Docker on our computer. This allows us to plug N8N into essentially a virtual server right on our computer. You could also put it on if you have an actual server, you can use Docker as well. It's great for experimenting and running N8N locally. And then later you can always move it to option 2 or to a server or whatever you need to do there. Option 2, and this is how I have it set up, is hosting on a virtual private server. So you can use a provider like Hostinger, DigitalOcean, or AWS. I personally use Hostinger. It's ideal for production finance workflows that need 24/7 uptime because the server's always running. It doesn't stop if you shut down your laptop. It's very secure. Your data is in a private cloud-based environment, and it lets you schedule jobs, store credentials safely, and scale across a large business while keeping control over the platform. So now let's get started with the totally free version, which is installing with Docker. Now, if you come to N8N's website and you go up to docs, you're going to find an entire section just on self-hosting N8N. Now, everything you need to know to get up and running, I'm going to show you. And if there's anything you specifically need to enter, I'm going to have it down in the description for you. But this is just here as a backup, so I want to make sure you're aware of it and also just really confirm that N8N is set up for self-hosting to the point that they've got documentation right on the website. If you ever do need help on Docker, it's this first one right here, the Docker installation guide. But again, everything you need to know, I'm going to walk you through step by step right now. So the first thing to do is to install Docker if you don't already have it on your computer. To do that, you go to docker.com. It's totally free. We're going to come here and we're going to go to download Docker desktop. Now here you'll need to know what kind of computer you're working with. I think the average finance person, 85% of you are probably going to be on Windows AMD 64. That's the most common. If you're on a PC, you're almost definitely on AMD 64. ARM is most common in non-PC, non-laptop devices, but make sure to check. And then if you're on Apple, it's usually marked on the front of your laptop which one you have. So we're going to go ahead and download for Windows AMD 64. The download will start, we wait for that, and then we run it just like a normal program. Now while that downloads, I'll mention what Docker is. Docker allows you to set up compartments on your computer to run software. It keeps it separate from the rest of your computer so you don't break anything or crash anything, but also it lets the software keep running independently as you restart or reboot your computer, so it's not going to go away. It's like a mini computer in your computer that's going to let you do things like operating N8N. All right, so let's go ahead and run this like a normal installation. I'll skip ahead to the next part. You've all installed software before, just run the prompts and I'll catch you back with Docker desktop open. So we've installed Docker, we've opened Docker, and now it's setting up the engine so we can get working on our N8N setup. So you'll most likely open up on Docker Hub. You could really open anywhere. We're going to use a few of the buttons up here. So the first thing we want to do is we want to go to the volumes. So let's click on volumes, and in volumes, we want to create an N8N installation. So let's go ahead and hit create. And we'll call this data. So this is going to create the volume. This is that mini computer in your computer where it's going to store this separately on your hard drive. So now we've got our data underscore N8N. Our volume is set up and ready. So now with our volume built, we're going to go over to images, and here we're going to search images to run. Now the really great thing is we don't have to go anywhere else and download anything. N8N is available in Docker. So you'll search N8N, you'll see N8N.io, N8N, and we're going to pull this down into our container. So again, you don't need to go to N8N and download this. It's going to be able to pull right into Docker with its image. Now the poll is in progress. Once this is done, then we'll set up our container. While it downloads, let's get our time zone. I'll put this Wikipedia link to the official time zone names. Scroll down and find your time zone. In my instance, we'll be looking for America/New York, because I'm in the Eastern time zone for the United States. All right, here's America, New York, which is the standard one. And make sure you get this phrase exactly, America/New York underscore. Make sure whatever your time zone identifier is, you get it exactly how it's written. We're going to need that for N8N. So now we've got our image here. We're going to go ahead and run this and get our container set up. So we want to run a new container with N8N. And here's where we need to put in some of those optional settings that I mentioned. So we're going to go ahead and call this N8N. Our host port is going to be 5678. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I'm going to have all this down in the description, so don't worry too much about copying it down right now. Our host path is going to be the name we created when we were doing our volume, so that's going to be N8N underscore data. And then we're going to point it to the home node for N8N. And then we need to add a couple of variables that N8N requires us to define. So the first one, we'll use that time zone that we got. So we'll pop in generic time zone, and this value is going to be America, New York. That's for me. You'll put in whatever is relevant to you. We're going to do the exact same thing again, referencing the TZ code. So we'll put TZ in there, and then we're going to do the same thing for America, New York. All right, now we're going to do enforce settings file permission. Again, for you, you'll just have to copy and paste this. That's going to be true. We'll do one more. This one is going to be N8N runners, and all of this I'm getting from the N8N documentation, but again, I'll have it down below for you to copy and paste. That's going to be true. All right, now we'll go ahead and run this, again, running it on our little mini computer that we built in Docker. All right, you'll see here that everything is being created. So Docker is creating N8N, it's accessing the image, it's getting everything all set up for us to use. See, the process is still running. And now once you see this message that says editor is now accessible via, this means you can now access via your browser using this link. So I'll go ahead and click this link. So now you're able to access your own N8N instance through your browser. It's pointing to that special mini computer within your computer on your computer, but you're able to access to the browser just like you would with any other instance of N8N. You'll set up your account just like you would on the cloud version, and you're ready to go. So sure, this took a couple of steps, but I really want you to know this because it's really just a little bit of copying and pasting. You follow this video, you do all the steps in order. You're gonna have N8N running totally free on your computer. You will not have to spend a dime on this setup ever. Now let's go ahead and move to the next setup, which is using a virtual private server. It's going to save you 60 to 70% over buying it from N8N, but it's going to be set up in a few clicks of the button. So if you really don't want to go through the setup of Docker, now I'll show you how to do it the same way that I do it with a virtual private server. It'll run all the time. It'll cost you just a few bucks a month. You'll save 60 to 70% over doing it through N8N, and it'll be ready in just a few minutes. Now here's how I run N8N, because as I mentioned, if you're using N8N on your computer, well, if you turn your computer off, it's not going to be able to run workflows. And I want to make sure that my workflows can run all the time, even when I'm not actively using them. So while it's great to be able to practice or be able to run some local things on your computer, I want to make sure that my processes can run all the time. So for that, I use a VPS or a virtual private server. Here we are, we're on Hostinger website, hostinger.com, and you'll see right here on the right side of the menu, self-hosted N8N. It is truly a platform that Hostinger supports, and they have dedicated VPS setups that will help you get this rolling in just seconds. Honestly, I found it faster setting up N8N using Hostinger than even setting up N8N on N8N's cloud-based website. Once you're through the payment process, it may take Hostinger 5 to 10 minutes to get you set up, but then you're going to come to your domain and it's going to look just like this. So you'll see here I've got my virtual private server. It's running N8N on the cloud. We'll go into manage, and you'll see here all of the information with N8N running. Again, Hostinger will have this all installed and set up and ready for you to use. You can access it two ways. You can either go directly to this link right here, or you can go to Manage App. Now, if you want to be really fancy, you can point your domain directly to this. So, well, this is my regular domain. I actually have this set up where I can go to n8n.f9finance.com, and I'll come right into my N8N instance because I've moved it to point to my domain. You don't need to be that fancy. Just be aware it's something you can do outside the scope of this video, but there's a lot of great documentation right here on Hostinger for how to do it. And that's really all there is to it. It's up and running. It took a couple of seconds. You have your own N8N instance and you're ready to go. And again, processes here, if you set them up on a schedule, they'll run all the time, even if your computer's shut down. It doesn't get much easier than that. So this is N8N's website, n8n.io. This is where you can get the paid cloud versions of N8N. It's also where you can download the self-hosted community version. So we look around, we have all kinds of features here. One of the absolute best things on this website is right here under product. We can go to templates, and you're going to find over 6,000 existing workflow automation templates. You can download these, you can pull them straight into your N8N environment, and it's a really great way to either learn. So some people build things like how to build your first AI agent, learn N8N basics, or there's also things you can put into practice in your business, in your job today. So the templates are incredibly powerful. So this is the N8N environment. So when you open it up, you'll see all of your available workflows. You'll see how much has been running, and you of course have a button ready to create a workflow. Now, we mentioned credentials. These are going to be your connections to other platforms. So you'll see I have connections here to Google Sheets, Gmail, and Google Drive because that's what we're going to use. And then I can see my executions, which has all been from me testing the platform that we're going to be going through today. I showed you earlier that there were templates. You can find all the templates directly in here. There's some pre-built AI agents. There's some templates that are tutorials for you. And then you can hit view all templates to go back to that exact same website I showed you earlier where you can get templates and it will pull right into your N8N instance. So let's go back to our overview and we're going to go ahead and hit this button to create a new workflow. So now this is where you'll spend almost all of your time in N8N. I want to walk you through exactly what you're looking at here. So this is the canvas. This is where you will build your automation. This is where you'll add all your individual nodes as we talked about. You can come in here and you can add notes if you want to add information. I'm a note. Very helpful. If you want to audit them or if you want to review what's happening, you can go to executions, and this is going to show you how many times and in what way it's been refreshed. And then evaluations allows you to feed data in to test it through multiple iterations to make sure that it's going to be stable for you. That's a little bit more advanced, but good to know that the options here. And really then it all comes down to adding the nodes. A note on navigation, because this took me way too long to figure out. If you want to move freely around the canvas, hit the control button, you'll see the little hand, and then you can just drag it. So I don't know why that took me so long to figure out, but there we go. So you can do that again. If you do this, you're just going to get a little bar to select nodes, make sure to hit control, and then you can move yourself around. And of course, down here, you've got all the navigation buttons, zoom in, zoom out, tidy up, which will automatically kind of snap all the nodes into position. So let's go ahead and add our first step. Now, your first step essentially always needs to be a trigger. So when I hit add first step, I'm going to get all of the triggers for the work. I can search through this, or I can just kind of look down the list. A manual trigger means that you have to click the button to start it. On an app event means something happens in another app you're connected to. On a schedule, this is, you're going to say the date, time, day of the week, whatever you want to do when it runs. You can do it if there's a HTTP request through a webhook. That'll be a little bit more advanced. You can do it when someone submits a form. You can have it triggered by another workflow triggering it. You can do it if you're using AI on a chat message. You can set this up to run on an evaluation. And then, of course, there's a few other ways that get more advanced. We're really going to focus right now on just on a schedule because I want you to get the basic feel for this down. So let's go ahead and hit on a schedule. So then this is what it looks like as you start to design a node. Everything you'll see right now, we're at the trigger. Aside from that, everything is going to have an input and an output. A trigger is the first input, so you're not seeing the input on the left. I'll show you that on the next screen. But we'll start with the trigger, and then we have the output. So every time we do something, we have the data coming in and the data going out, and they will conversely be on the left and the right. We want to set here is we want to do this as a custom running with a cron job. Cron means that this can run on a specific schedule we designate versus if we just did this we could do this every hour, every day. You don't need to set up cron, but we're going to do this on a cron because typically we'll want our finance reports to run on specific days of the week. Now, if you're not familiar with cron, I'll tell you, I don't personally know cron. I'm not a developer. I'm in finance. You can find help generating it here. So this is the cron table guru. There will be all these options of how often you want the cron to run. You can just click on this. Like we're going to say every day at 8 a.m. because that's pretty good for a finance process. It's going to generate the cron for us, which will be by the minute, the hour, the day, the month, the weekday. So it's going to say, don't care about the minute on the 8th hour, every day, every month, every weekday. We're going to go ahead and copy this. We'll paste it over here, and it recognizes that as valid, and then we execute the step, which means it's be ready to feed data into the next step as we develop. We'll hit execute step, and here's the output. So the step has run, our trigger's ready, and it will run every day at 8 a.m. So we can go ahead and close out, and now you'll see it's all set up. It's green, which means it's operational, it's tested, and it's ready to go. Of course, at any time, if you want to test the workflow, you can always just hit the execute workflow button, but otherwise, this is set up to run every day at 8 a.m. Now, the next thing we need to do is we need to get data from Google Sheets. So we're going to go ahead and add Google Sheets. And this is the first time that we will need to set up a credential so that we can talk to Google Sheets. Now, the last time we went to add a node, it was just the triggers, but now we have availability to do anything. It says right here, what happens next? Now I can search or I can come down to the list. Starting from top to bottom, we can add AI tools. So there's all kinds of different AI things. This is going to be a later video we're going to do next week. You can take an action in an app. This is what we're going to use right now. We want to take action in Google Sheets. You can do data transformation. So as you're bringing data in, you can do transformation similar if you've ever used Power Query. If you've watched any of my videos on Power Query, there's all kinds of different tools you can use to manage data as it comes through N8N. Flow, these are things that happen within N8N. So you can do filters, if then, loop over, merges. We're going to look at if then because it's very common since you've been working in Excel with if then functions. So we're going to look at that because that's an important way to understand how to use the kind of internal functions for N8N, but use it in a way that you're familiar with. There's core. So this allows you to do things within the N8N core, allows you to run code if you want to do things with like Python or JavaScript, allows the ability to do that. That's well beyond the scope of this video. A really cool thing we'll look at with AI agents is there's human in the loop. So if you're running an AI agent, again, we'll look at this next week, you can pause, you can have it go look for a human through one of these channels to answer the question before it continues. Think about a budget approval. If it's a little gray if something should be approved, it can go to a human to make the final decision. You can also add another trigger. If you want there to be multiple ways to kick this process off, you can have another trigger in here. But for right now, we're going to go to action and app. I'm just going to search here for Google Sheets. There it is. Now we're going to add Google Sheets. So what we want to do is we've got a file in Google Sheets that's extracting data from our point of sale system, and we want to evaluate our performance against budget to create kind of a daily report of sorts that we don't have to run. So we're going to want to get rows from that sheet. So we're going to go ahead and click Get Rows in Sheet. You're then going to see this come up. So I mentioned before, you're always going to have your input and your output. So we've got what comes in, the action we're taking in this node, and then what comes out of the node. So there's three different ways to look at all of this. There's the schema. This is going to be kind of the line items coming in. You'll see those here, timestamp, day of the week. We can go to table. This is the view you're probably most familiar with and maybe best to use as you get used to N8N. And then there's JSON, which is the straight coding. This is definitely more advanced. We'll get to that in future videos, but for now, just focus on schema or table, and I'd probably recommend table. Then we need to connect a credential that lets us get data from Google Sheets. Now, I've already got one connected, but I'll show you how you would do this. So we would hit create new credential. This is going to come up and say, for what we've selected, this is exactly what you need to do. The great news is anytime there's a connection, if you need help filling this out and you don't know quite how to use it, you can just hit open documentation and it's going to tell you exactly what to do step by step. So this is step by step how to get the credential you'll need for your Google Sheets account. You're going to get that information following these steps. You're going to come back here, you're going to copy and paste in the client ID and the client secret. In this case, that's what Google will give you if you're following this. It'll keep saying, if you haven't filled this in, please go open the docs. We'll tell you exactly how to do it. So you go over for whatever you're adding, just follow these step-by-step instructions. They're really easy to use with screenshots. It's really well done. Come back over here, paste it in, and then you're going to have something that looks like this where you can select my Google Sheets account, which is going through the Google API. So we'll select that. Then you're going to select where you want to go in Google, and the operation is still getting rows. So in this case, I want to go to my F9 Finance Coffee Shop Financials, and I want to pull it from GL data, which is conveniently the only sheet. There's other things you can do if you want to filter at this point. You can do that right in here, but all we want to do is just pull, because again, I'm keeping this the most basic, assuming that you've never worked with N8N before. We'll go ahead, we'll hit execute step. So now we've seen our input, which is the trigger. This step is getting rows in the sheets, and the output is that data that is sitting in our Google Sheet. I've got it up here for reference so you can kind of see what you see over here. This is the Google Sheet, a typical GL export coming from our financial system. We've got our account, our location, date, actuals, and budget. And you'll see all of that over here. Account, location, date, actuals, budget, and then it's added row numbers just for the reference of the system. All right, so we've got this node all built out. Now the next node is where we're going to need to evaluate the data that came in. So now we're going to be adding an if-then node. So that's going to be a flow, because this is going to be functionality within N8N. So we'll go ahead and hit if, and this is going to create two different branches and separate the branches, doing a different flow with if. So this is going to let us separate into two branches if it is true or if it is false. So what we want to do here is we've got all the information coming in over here. Again, input, output, that's really important, so I'll keep saying it. And we've got our actuals and our budget. So now this is where it gets super easy with the drag and drop. All I have to do is come over here and say, if my actuals, I can just drag that in there. A lot of different options here, just like in Excel. If my actuals are greater than my budget times 1.1. So what this is saying is I want to take my budget, and if it's more than 10% over budget, then I want to take action on this. So that's what I'm saying. If my actuals are greater than budget, we'll go ahead and execute this step, and now you'll see it's split into two branches. We have a true branch saying, yes, actuals are over budget. So here you can see the cost of sales for a story. It was budgeted at $84,000. It came in at $105,000, so it has flagged this. And then the false branch means everything is under budget. Now, when we come back to the chart, you'll see it's actually split. So now we've got this separate node over here for true, and we have a separate node for false. It has split the data, and we can now take different actions on them. Now, in this case, if it's false, if it's under budget, we're going to do nothing. We're just going to let it end. It's going to stop there, and no further action will be taken. But if it's true, that's where we're going to need to go ahead and send an email. So I'm going to come over here. In this case, I'm just going to be using kind of the F9 Finance Gmail suite. You could do this through Outlook or whatever you need to. We're going to go to Action and App. We're going to search for Gmail. We'll pull this up. And here, I personally usually with this will create a draft because I want to review the email first. So we'll create a draft. But you could also just have it directly send the email once you have this kind of tested and running and comfortable. But for a new process, I like it to draft it. I can come see the email, make sure I'm happy with it, and hit send myself. And then once I'm comfortable with the process that it's working as intended, we can start to do the full automation of having it send itself. But always be a little bit more cautious on that side so you don't have crazy emails going out. You're going to do the same thing as before to create a credential. You'll see it looks exactly like the other one did, except instead of Google Sheets, it's Gmail. You're going to fill it out the same way. Again, there will always be instructions. Just follow the step-by-step instructions to set up your credential. All right, so I've got my Gmail account connected. I want this to go to a draft, but you can do a message, a label, a draft thread, whatever you want. The operation is going to be create the draft. We can also delete, get many, all kinds of options. Our subject line is going to be budget alert over 10% threshold. The email type will be text. We'll keep it simple. And then I've got the message we want over here. So this message is going to say the following cost centers exceeded budget. The account is at actuals versus budget. So it will say, this is what's over. This is how it's over. We'll go ahead and execute that step. It's going to run the output. This will take a little bit longer because it's going to Gmail to create those drafts. All right, so it says it's created all of the messages. Here's the IDs. So coming to my drafts in my inbox, you're going to see here are all of the budget alerts. So here's a budget alert over 10% threshold. Mind you, I'm running this on the full data set. It's only going to run new items. It's not going to run existing items. So you're not going to have this many emails. It's just the first time it's running. Labor is at 144,000 versus a budget of 130,000. So it is more than 10% over threshold. Now that email is all there and ready to go. And that is our simple workflow. Now just imagine, you can add complexity and layers, but ultimately it comes down to you have an event that triggers it. Then you have actions taken and you can make decisions along the way. Actions taken can be getting data from different systems, evaluating the data, transforming the data, having systems talk. So it's all about a triggering or inciting event, then the actions you want to take. Think about it like if you're running a finance process. What are the actions that you're taking along the way? Each action becomes a node. Every time you go and download data, that's a node. Every time you do something to that data, that's a node. And you're just putting that down here in writing and then connecting it all together and then using those credentials to connect. So now we're going to build our workflow using N8N, but we need to start with our entire process just like we did in Module 4. We're not going to just dive into building because again, like we learned in Modules 3 and 4, the pre-work is as important, if not even more important than actually building. So what that means is we're going to go back, we're going to adjust our process map. We're going to turn that into a new set of agent requirements, which will then turn into a new agent blueprint and a new system prompt. And then from there, we'll start constructing our agent. So I've got our original monthly variance commentary process map up. Let's go ahead and start just changing the title. We'll call this month and assistant. Okay, so instead of just variance commentary, it's going to be our month-end assistant. It's going to take care of a few more steps for us, really whatever steps we want. So step 1, start and triggers. Does this change? Month-end close is completed. We get an actuals file from accounting. It doesn't change a ton, but I will say we get an actuals file from accounting loaded to a Google Drive folder. So in this case, we aren't going to need to go actually get the file. It's going to be placed into a folder and then everything is going to happen automatically from there. So not much of a change. It's still about month-end stopping, but we're going to have the file pull in automatically. Next, data and inputs. Actuals by account, budget by account, prior month reports, mapping of accounts to management reporting. There's one more thing we're going to need. So before, if there was any additional context, we were just going to type it right into the OpenAI Agent Builder. But now we want to be able to collect that commentary from all of our different businesses automatically. So I'm just going to call this commentary file, but we'll talk about this more later when we get to building. Essentially, it's going to be just a central repository where all of our different business units or locations can provide commentary, and the AI tool is going to be able to access that and work with that information directly. So that's our data and inputs. Next, our decisions and rules. Does anything change here? Is the variance material? Is it favorable or unfavorable? Is this recurring or one time? Well, we really need a big guardrail here. So we're going to let this agent actually prepare and send out a month-end pack. So we want to do something called human in the loop approval. Is this executive ready? So before, we were just having it write out the commentary and give it back to us, and then we could do our editing and tweaking. Now, in this case, we're going to set the agent up to actually prepare a month-end package and be able to send it out via email. But we don't want that to just go running off. We still want to check it and make sure it's good to go. So human in the loop means the agent's going to stop. It's going to ask a human to review and approve or decline. If it declines, it's going to go back through the process all over again. And then define outputs, bullet point commentary, summary with the top 3 drivers, clear, concise, executive ready language. And we want to add in here email format ready to send. So you'll see, like I mentioned before, the core process doesn't change. We're going to add a lot of bells and whistles. And we've made a few changes here really just to take out manual steps we were doing and move them to automated steps. But you don't need to be fancy. We're going to add all these bells and whistles. We're going to automate the interim steps, but we didn't really need to change the flow or the structure of our process map. Our month-end variance commentary agent had the 4 steps: start and trigger, date and inputs, decisions and rules, define outputs. And our month-end assistant has the same steps, just with a few extra features we wanted to have. So now that our month-end assistant's done, let's go ahead and snip this so we can put it into ChatGPT. All right, here's our snipping tool. We'll come up here and we'll grab this. And there is our month-end assistant. Okay, we will copy this and then we're going to come over to ChatGPT. We'll go ahead and paste this in just like we did before, and then we will grab our prompt. So again, we're going to do our agent requirements. And as a refresher from Module 4, the agent requirements document is going to tell the AI who it is and what its job is. And again, this is the most important part of the entire build, is the planning and defining what we want this to be. So I've got the process map attached. Act as a skilled financial analyst. Using the process map I provided via attachment, create a requirements document for an AI agent. The document should spell out the purpose, inputs, rules, outputs, knowledge, and tools. Ask me any questions you need to give the best possible output. So we'll send that away and let AI do its magic. All right, and it's coming back. It's going to treat this like an internal FP&A bot that it has to defend to a controller, an IT partner, and a slightly cranky CFO. So here's our purpose. Analyze actuals budget, identify and prioritize variances, all good. Here's our inputs, the actuals file, the budget, prior month, the commentary reference file. We've got our rules and decision logic, so how it's going to operate. And then we've got all of our different outputs, as well as the content structure and how it's going to be structured from a system standpoint. We have our knowledge requirement, so this is what we need to pull in from a knowledge standpoint. And then tools and integrations. Now, it did come back and give us some open questions just like we got before, so let's go ahead and answer these. How do I want materiality defined? I want it defined as $5,000. We'll just keep it easy for now. Account types. Accounts are cleanly flagged as revenue or expense. Recurring logic. I always say 2 periods isn't a trend, but 3 is. 3 periods is a trend. Tone, conservative, direct. Let's say somewhere in the middle. Who is the human in the loop? So there will be one reviewer. Approve with edits. Assume the human is me for now. All right, and then our output destination. This is going to go into Gmail only. All right, we'll send that back, and it's going to give us our final requirements document. So here's our requirements document final, our purpose all cleaned up, inputs. It's writing out our rules and decision logic. You'll see it's tweaked to pull in the information we gave it, $5,000. Here's our outputs. Here comes in our knowledge. There's our tools and our integrations. And then some advice on what it would do next, system prompts, stuff we're actually going to go ahead and do. So there's our agent requirements. Let's go ahead and catalog this. So I'm going to copy all of this out. And we're going to go ahead and pop this into a Word document. I'm going to go ahead and pop our agent requirements into this Word document. And there it is. So here is our agent requirements document. So now that our requirements are saved, so we've done our process map, our requirements, and now the next step we need to do is to build our agent blueprint. So we can do this right off of the information that was right here since we're in the same chat. Let's go ahead and get our prompt. I'm going to paste my prompt in. Act as a skilled financial analyst using the agent requirements I provided via attachment. Using the agent requirements, let's change this. You helped me build above. Create a blueprint for my AI agent. I will be building the agent in, this is actually be N8N instead of agent builder. The blueprint needs to include the role, the responsibilities, the inputs, the workflow, the output, and the guardrails. Ask me any questions you need to give the best possible output. So there's that. We will send that away and see what we get back. All right, and ChatGPT is coming back. So we've got our month-end assistant blueprint for N8N. Our role, this is going to be an FP&A analysis and drafting agent that turns month-end actuals into executive-ready variance commentary with human approval required before anything goes out. We've got all of our different responsibilities listed out here. Then we're coming into our inputs. And this is actually, so before when we had the requirements, it's what we need to happen. The blueprints is being more specific. Here's the actual JSON fields I'm going to need to create to feed this data through the process. Some control inputs we're going to do. And then here is the node by node setup for our N8N workflow, including any of the JSON that we need to copy and paste. Like I said, you're not alone in any of this. Even if it gets a little bit technical where we're going to put some code in, ChatGPT is here to help you every step of the way and write it all out. And that's exactly what it's done here. And it's divided this into phases. So phase 0 is just the trigger. Phase 1 is collecting the data. Phase 2 is transforming the data and calculating. Phase 3 is drafting. Phase 4 is going to be human review, approve with edits. And phase 5 is going to be the final send out through email. We've got all the different outputs we need listed. And then the guardrails, very important to pull in our guardrails. And lastly, it's asking us questions so it can make this blueprint perfect for the exact setup. Okay, so file format reality check. Say these files will be Google Sheets. Granularity at the account level or management level. I'd like these at the store level. I can't type. Granularity at the location as well as total. A trend. Yes, a trend would require the same direction. I want pure bullet points. I don't want a table there. An approve loop, I want it to be reply and approve with N8N. Okay, so there's the answers to the questions. We're going to let this go back and run through its updates. All right, so this is the month-end assistant blueprint version 2, and this is going back to we said, if you have any questions, ask them. It's gone back, it's done that, and now it's just revising to make sure we get exactly what we need. So here's our updated responsibilities. We've got our inputs. See, now it's noting, it asks what file format we have. Now it's noting it's going to be a Google Sheet, so it's no longer guessing. It's also tweaking everything a little bit just to accommodate the Google Sheet. Yeah, you'll see we've got some different notes here now about how we're going to export and convert the Google Sheet. Here comes in our transform and calculate. All right, now we've got our AI drafting. We've got our approval loop. And then here comes the final outputs that we're going to get. And then guardrails with our governance controls, integrity, quality controls, all of this really good stuff we need. It asked us a couple build questions, but I'm quite happy with where we're at. So we're just going to go ahead and take the information we've gotten. All right, here's our month-end assistant version 2. Copy that over to a Word document. And now we've got our entire agent blueprint cataloged, which we can refer to as we need as we work through the N8N build. All right, so there's that. Now the last thing we need to do, so we've done our process map, we've done our requirements, we've done our blueprint. The last thing before we dive in and start building is we need to do our system prompt. So we'll go back to ChatGPT. And we'll put in our prompt. Paste that in there. Act as a skilled financial analyst. Using the agent blueprint you helped me create the master system prompt for my agent. I will be building the agent in N8N. The system prompt needs to include the role, the tone, the rules, the behavior. Make sure the prompt is reliable, including step-by-step reasoning, explicit rules, output templates, and fallback behavior. Ask me any questions you need to give the best possible output. We'll hit send and let us do its magic. All right, and here comes the prompt. It's coming in the code node, so we know ChatGPT is taking this seriously. Just note here, you asked for step-by-step reasoning. I'm not going to make the agent dump its internal thought process into your email. Instead, I force step-by-step procedures and an audit-style checkception. Instead, I force step-by-step procedure and an audit-style check section. You can optionally log in N8N. That's great. We definitely don't want to dump that on our CFO. All right, so here's the system prompt for the month-end assistant. You are the month-end assistant, an FP&A analyst, and drafting agent. Here's a definition of the role. Here's the tone. Non-negotiable rules. So we've got the output format, the materiality, the favorable and the unfavorable logic, our trend and recurring logic, the driver language, location and total required, approval safety, making sure, again, we're putting our guardrails in, excluding any banned content, and then here's the behavior, the procedure you must follow. So step 1, validate inputs. Step 2, build the total narrative. Step 3, build the location narratives. Step 4, enforce all of the rules. Step 5, produce the output. Here's a great output template. It's going to tell the AI exactly how to output so it goes into a clean email. See notable callouts by the locations. Approval reminder. There's fallback behavior if something goes wrong. And then final reminders and noting that the system prompt has ended. 3 questions to make this more bulletproof. Do you want the total top drivers? I would like the largest single location variances rolled up. For recurring, I want materiality to be in all periods. It's really, really doing a good job of understanding what we need and adjusting for that. For recurring, I want materiality to be for all periods. Subject line, I want that entirely handled. Okay, we'll send that away and we'll let it come back with our updated system prompt. All right, and you notice it's coming back a little bit faster this time because it already has most of it. It's just tweaking it slightly based on the information we gave it. All right, actually, I like the formatting a little better this time. It gave us really nice sections for everything. Role, tone. There's our rules. Here's our behavior. Yeah, you'll see it's coming back a lot faster because it already did most of the work. There's our rules. Here's our very strict output template. Strict, very strict. Fallback behavior and the end of the system prompt. And here's why it will behave. No more questions first. It asks us what it need. So there's our system prompt. Nice little button when it's in the code node. We can just copy code out. And we'll go ahead and pop that into our last Word document. All right, and there is our system prompt. So we've got our process map done. We turned that into agent requirements, which we then turned into an agent blueprint, and finally our system prompt. So with all that in place, we're ready to start our build. All right, we've got a clean N8N canvas up, so let's start building our new month-end agent. Go ahead, come up here. We'll call this our month-end agent, just so we know what we're working with. All right, and now it's time to refer back to our agent blueprint because that's going to be driving how we construct this. So I'll pull the agent blueprint over here. Again, the role is going to be a month-end assistant. It's an FP&A analysis and drafting agent that reads month-end Google Sheets via Drive, converts them into structured variance summaries, both in total and by location, and produces Gmail-ready bullet for month-end commentary in HTML format. So we've got our responsibilities here. We can skip past that right now because what we're looking for is the workflow. Okay, so here's our workflow. We want to start with a schedule trigger. Start the workflow on your chosen cadence. From there, we're going to go to edit fields. So we're going to define some parameters like the periods, threshold, fold, whatever we need to put in there. We're going to search files and folders on Google Drive. So this is going to give us back the list of the files and folders we need because everything we do here, we want it to be dynamic. If you build something where you have to have this exact file with this exact name with these exact columns, you haven't really built a dynamic automation. You've built a robotic process automation or bot, which we've had for a decade. Then download files, so we're going to get the matched Google Sheet so we can pull it into a CSV so we can have that data feed into our agent. We're going to extract it, so we're going to take our downloaded file and turn it into JSON. We're going to run some code in JavaScript so that the JSON is ready to be read by the AI tool. Then we're going to have the actual AI agent. So this is going to do all of the work we need it to do for us. We're going to have Gmail do a send and wait. So this is going to be the human in the loop approval. We don't just want to start blasting the email off to people. We want to have it reviewed and approved. That's what this step will do. And then it's going to create a draft of the Gmail. So this is going from dynamically pulling whatever files you have in a folder, getting all that information, feeding it down the line into the agent, and then sending it out for approval, and then sending out the final email. So that's what we're going to be building. All right, now we'll come over here and we'll get started with our trigger. So our first step is going to be a schedule trigger. So what we want to do with this is, let's just say that we're always done with close on the 5th day of the month. So we want our trigger to be a monthly trigger. This will be for our month end. Months between trigger will be 1. We're going to trigger on the 5th day of the month. And we're going to trigger it at 6 a.m. So the whole workflow will be waiting in your inbox when you get to work. All right, we execute the step to test it. And there we go. It is ready to send the trigger. So that is step 1 all done. Now, if we go back to our blueprint, we've got our trigger in. Now we want to go to edit fields where we will define the run parameters. Okay, so this is where we're going to need to type in a little bit of code in an edit field. All right, so edit fields are set. We use this as set when we were doing our AI agent builder. Okay, now here we're going to need to input some JSON. We're going to need to type it in with whatever we want to define. So we could just, type it in if you know JSON, but the easier way to do this is to get ChatGPT to help. So because the same ChatGPT window has been helping us with our blueprint or requirements, it kind of knows what's going on. So let's say, please write the JSON for the second step where we edit fields and set state. Again, you can do all of this without writing any code because ChatGPT is going to do the work for us. All right, here it comes back. So this is the state and configuration JSON that we want to put in. Beautiful. So it's giving us the driver selection, the Google Drive, the Gmail. We have our materiality, period context, run metadata, all of this great stuff, safety flags. Fantastic. So this is going to be all of our set state. We'll go ahead and copy that. Didn't have to write a single line of code. I'll come over here to JSON, and you can just wipe everything already in there, and we'll pop it all in. Now, if we execute this step, the output should be just literally what we put in. And there it is. So here's our run metadata, period context. There's all of the JSON we need, and then we can call this down the line in any node we want, but it's been set from the very beginning. So we've got that node all taken care of. Let me come over a little bit so we get some space. All right, what is next? Next, we're going to search files and folders. So we want to go to Google Drive and get a list of everything we need so that we can dynamically pull in whatever files are available. All right. So we're going to come back over to our agent. We're going to search for Google Drive. Here we go. And we want to search files and folders. All right, I've already got my credential set up, so we're going to use the Google Drive credential. Again, if you don't have one set up, just go ahead, hit create new credential, and then follow this document, and that's going to walk you through how to do everything on Google or whatever node you're connecting. Let's close that out because we already have one. So our resource, lots of options here, but in this case, we want file folder because that's going to let us search. Searching returns what's in it. Operation again will be search. Our search method is going to be advanced search. So we want to put in a query string to, again, dynamically pull back everything in our source folder ID. And our source folder is something we defined up here, right? So it says right here, Google Drive folder ID replace with folder ID. So we need to go back to our set state, get the actual folder so it sets correctly. Obviously, our ChatGPT wouldn't have known that, but now we see that we need it. So here's replace with folder ID. All right, and from your folder, it's super easy to get the folder ID. So you just come up here to the top, and this string of letters and numbers, that is your folder ID. So all we have to do is copy that out, and then we're going to replace it right here, just like ChatGPT told us to. Awesome. So now when we execute and we come over here, we'll see this defined in our Google Drive. So there's our folder, and we can now call it in the future step. All right, so now we need to go get our advanced query string. Please write the query string for step 3 to search for all files in the target folder. Again, we want this to be as dynamic as possible. So search for all the files in the target folder and return their IDs. All right, so we'll get that string back. Isn't it so nice? We used to have to write all this code. Imagine how long this would have taken even just 2 years ago. All right, so here's the search query. Let's go ahead and copy that in. We'll come over here, we'll put it in our query string. All right, and it automatically jumps to an expression because we put JSON in. We want to return everything in there. Now, if you know that there's 800 files, that's where you don't want to be pulling 800 files in. Just don't put 800 files in the folder. But we're going to return all of them. So if we add 1 or 2 files, it's not a big deal. And then the last thing we want to do is designate the fields we want to pull in. And we want to pull in the file's ID and the MIME type. There we go. Let's go ahead and execute this step. All right, and here's our output. So we've come back, there's 3 different files, and you can go see if you go into one of our files. So like we can go into our financials, and we'll see just like we had with the folder, you'll see that there's the ID right here. So it starts with 1x6. If we come back, we should see a 1x6. Yep, so this last file is our financial table. So you can see it pulled in all of the IDs, and this will allow us to dynamically download them. Now, what files are we working with? Well, we've got our financial file, and these are the same files that we've looked at in all of our other examples. So here's our financials with our sales revenue, our actuals, our locations, month, years, and value. We have our point of sale file. The only difference from the last time I looked at these examples, before I had these just in regular Excel, now I've got them converted into Google Sheets, because using it from Google Sheets or an Excel online file is much easier for end-to-end to work with, and it's a lighter payload. Here's all of our point of sale data. Now the last file is a really interesting one, and this one is new this time, which is our F9 Finance Coffee Shop local comments. So this file is actually going to automate an entirely another part of the process, which is collecting variance commentary. Now, typically, variance commentary is collected by having people just explode your inbox with a bunch of things. You're chasing people down, you're tracking them down. Where's your commentary? What do you have to say? By putting it into an Excel online file or a Google Sheet, people can just feed their commentary straight in. Now, for the purposes of this, because obviously we don't really have an F9 Finance Coffee Shop, I'm just going to have ChatGPT give me some comments. So we have location, month, and comment. I have, this is also really good when you want to test things, or this is a really good thing to know when you want to test workflows, is that you can have ChatGPT generate some data for you. I have a Google Sheet with 3 columns. I already forgot what the columns were. Location, month, and comment. Location, month, and comment. Help me populate 20 rows of dummy data as if this sheet was filled out by the managers of my 3 coffee shop locations. Hell's Kitchen, Astoria, and Lower Manhattan. The commentary should be related to the financial and operational performance drivers from the last 2 months, which I'll tell it are May and June 2023. All right, we'll send that away. And then again, it's going to give us a really cool fake data set that we can just copy and paste in for purposes of demoing this. Here we go. And it's in exactly the right format. So it's giving us a few things for Hell's Kitchen, giving us a few lines for Astoria, and then I'm assuming a few lines for Lower Manhattan. Beautiful. So this is going to pull in kind of that extra context that's not sitting in the financial information. All right, we'll copy all this over. All right, so now this will pull in just like its financial information, and the agent can reference all this context. And because we're telling it with that guardrail, don't hallucinate, now it has the information to not hallucinate. So those are the 3 files that we're going to be working with. And that commentary process, again, that is an entirely other automation where you're no longer having to go hunt down commentary. You can send out reminders. You can lock the file when it's done. There's so many other options and bells and whistles you can do, but something entirely off your plate. So with search files and folders in place, let's go to our agent blueprint and see what we need next. So next we want a download file node to pull the Google Sheets we just sourced. So let's go ahead and do that. Go over here. We'll search for Google Drive again. So it's going to be the same node, but with a different action. And in this case, we're going to look for download file, which is right here. All right, so we're going to download a file, the operation download, and the file is going to be by ID. And we're going to be able to pull the IDs right over from the search node. All right, so you'll see it pulled in our JSON automatically. All right, then the last thing we need to do is we do need to set some options. So first of all, we want to put the output file in field data. That's a binary field so we can come back and reference it. And then we also want to convert the Google files. So you'll see it'll automatically select some conversions. It'll put Google Docs in HTML, drawings in a JPEG, Google Slides in PowerPoint, and Google Sheets in a CSV. And that's exactly what we were looking for. We wanted to convert our Google Sheets into a CSV to make the next nodes easier to work with. Let's go ahead and execute this step to test it. Perfect. And there are our 3 files downloaded. So we've got the local comments, the point of sale, and the financials all ready for our next node. I'm back to the blueprint. Our next node is extract from files. We want to take the files we just downloaded. We can't just take those files and feed them into this AI agent. We're going to take those and turn them into JSON, which will then be ready for us to do some other transformations on to feed into the AI agent. So let's go ahead and use the extract from file node. Search for extract. There it is. Extract from CSV. Again, you don't see Google Sheet here. That's why this is much better to do from CSV. All right, operation extract from CSV. The input binary field is data. And we don't need to set any options. So let's go ahead and run this, and we should see these 3 files pull in to an output. Perfect. So there's our schema. Here's the table. So there's the schema. Here it is in table. There's different columns. So when it says undefined, that just means there's nothing there, but we can go back a ways and see, yep, there's our data. If we go to the end, it should be our financials. Yep, there it is. So there's all of our information. And if you want to see it in the raw JSON, there it is for you. All right, let's go to the blueprint, see our next node, code in JavaScript. So we want to take the code and structure our CSV files in a way that our AI agent can handle. And for that, of course, we'll go to ChatGPT. Because again, we don't need to write our own code. We don't need to know the coding. We can have ChatGPT do all of it for us. So we'll come back here to where we've been building our agent requirements, and we'll just say, please write the JavaScript for the code node to prep Google Sheets data for the AI agent. So what we're doing is if we feed this JSON list right into the AI agent, there's a chance it could only read the first item in the list. So we want to turn them from a long JSON list of objects into a single string, which then the AI agent can read essentially almost like it's text. So we'll send that away, and we'll let ChatGPT do its magic. All right, here it is coming back with our code node. Code node prep Google Sheets data for the AI agent. And here's what this does. Ingests, validates, joins, computes, applies. So lots of really good stuff there. Here's the configuration. There's things we can change if we need to. Column names from our Google Sheets file. Got some helper functions coming in. It's giving us a lot of functions, doing some really good work here with the JavaScript. Think about how long it would take to write this. Even if you know JavaScript in the first place, think about how long it would take to construct this. And ChatGPT is just popping right up for us. All right, now main, so it's done the functions. Now it's doing the actual core code that's going to do the transformation for us. Pulling data sets, validating presence. Oh, wow, man, just so much code. Just think how long this would have taken to write. And then outputting a data issue payload for the AI agent. Resolving column names, building a mapping index. This is a lot of code. Indexing the budget. Indexing prior actuals. Just keeps going. Variance rows for the current period. What to do if it's missing the budget. Putting in some guardrails. Doing an analysis of the trends. Make sure it's material in all 3 prior periods. So those are some of the information that we've given it. So putting some more guardrails in for us. Wow, just so much code. Must be all favorable or all unfavorable. Current classification, build location summaries. There it is, and the most important line, return 1 item for the AI agent, return a JSON payload of everything above. Too important, don't get burned. Trend check needs prior budgets, and input keys might need a small rename. So it's good, it's keeping us on track. We'll go ahead and copy this code. We'll come over to our N8N instance, scroll over to give us a little bit of room here, and now we'll put in a code node. So this code, we can run JavaScript or Python. We're going to put JavaScript in, and we're just going to wipe everything there. There we go. Then we can execute our step, and we should get our single clean payload. And there it is, AI input text, 1 single clean payload with everything from our data set. Beautiful. Look at that. Okay, so now we are ready for the AI agent. So we're going to go ahead and pull in our AI agent. There we go. So the source for the prompt, this is going to be defined below. We don't want to use a chat node. Now, the prompt is not going to be where we put the system prompt. That's going to go down here under options with system message. The prompt is where we're going to give it the data. I made this mistake so many times and kept wondering why my agents were failing. The prompt is where we give it the data. So we're going to take our input text and we're going to put it right there. Now, we of course don't want the system message to just be you are a helpful assistant, and that's why we wrote a system prompt for this. All right, so here is our system prompt that we wrote. This is what we want to paste in as the system message, as it's called in N8N. So we'll pop all this out, and this is going to give the instructions and the brain to our file. Put that in there. Pop the system message in there. All right, so the core agent is set up. Now we just need to give it a chat model. So let's go down here and get a chat model. We're going to use OpenAI. I'm connected to my OpenAI account, and model from list. Again, I always recommend just using what the current working model is for ChatGPT. That's probably going to be the best balance of functionality, modern features, and accuracy there. Built-in tools, we definitely want to give this code interpreter because we're going to be working with Python. Do we need anything else? We don't need web or file in this case, and I don't think we want to add in any options. Well, actually, sampling temperature, we can set this to 0.2 because this will give us more reliable answers. So sampling temperature, this controls the randomness. A lower result means the completions are less random. As it approaches 0, the model will become deterministic and repetitive. So we don't want to go completely deterministic and repetitive, but this is month end. We definitely want to be more structured. So we'll go ahead and have that set. All right, so our agent is set up. Now what I like to do when we get to the agent, I like to run the entire workflow just so that it gets the best and most current information. So let's go ahead and do that. And the cool thing is we execute, you can see it run across all the different steps like this. So it's downloading the files right now, it's extracting them, it's running the code, and now it's hitting the AI agent. And if all goes well, we should see this output. If all goes well, we should see this output down here shortly. See, it's executing right now. Now, typically AI agents, they do a lot of reasoning and thinking, especially if we give them some of the newer, more powerful models. It is not uncommon. This could take a couple of minutes, and it's nothing to be concerned about. If there's an error, it will come back and tell you. Okay, so our agents come back, and we've got our output. So now where do we need to go from here? So the AI agent's in place. Next, we want to send a message. So this is going to be a human in the loop approval. So we won't want to go right to a Gmail node. We'll want to start by clicking human in the loop. Let me give us a little bit more space to work with here. All right. So we're going to go here. We're going to go to human in the loop, wait for approval or human input before continuing. Here we want to connect with my Gmail account. Resource will be a message. We want to send and wait for a response. This is going to go to MDon. All right, subject line. You can pull in things like if you wanted to pull in periods or anything else you've set, you can pull that in, but we'll just say approval required, keep it simple. Our message will just be our output from the AI agent. You can be fancy and put other things in here, but that's all we need for now. And the response type is going to be approval. It's going to send us an email with a button to approve. Now, you can also do a free text. You can do approval or denial. You can add in different approval options like this. We're just going to kind of leave it as it is and send that step. All right, so now it's saying it's waiting for input. So what does that mean? That means we need to go check our email and see if we have the email to click. So here is our email for approval. So subject, June 2023 month end recap. Performance reflected improving traffic patterns in key areas with mixed demand by neighborhood. Hell's Kitchen improved month over month with stronger foot traffic and tourism. Astoria revenue softened, but cost discipline was strong. Lower Manhattan sales improved modestly. Utilities increased with warmer temperatures. So here's our favorable variances. Here's our unfavorable variances. Point of sale highlights, not available in data set. That's something we can take a look at later. Risks and watchouts, and then next steps. This looks great. We'll go ahead and approve that. It says, got it, thanks. So as soon as we've approved that, we'll come back here and the execution is ready to go. So we come back to N8N and the execution is ready to go. Our data is approved is true, and that lets it continue on. All right, we'll go back. I believe we just have one node left. We'll go to our agent blueprint. And now we just need to actually construct the email using that HTML output. So let's go ahead and pull in a Gmail node. There's our Gmail node, and we want to create a draft. So we are connected with our Gmail account. Our resource is going to be a draft. Our operation is create. Subject, we want to be month and report for, and then we can go back so we can combine text with JSON. We'll go back to our edit fields. We'll pull in the period. So month end report for item JSON period. Email type is going to be HTML because that's what we had our AI agent output. And then the message is going to be the output of the AI agent. So we'll pop that right in there. See if we need any other options. We don't really need it. We could do attachments, BCC, CCCs, whatever you need, but we're just going to set that up like that. All right, we'll go ahead and execute the step. Node executed successfully. So now coming to my email, we do indeed see the draft. It preloaded the subject for us. So we can take that out, pull the HTML out, and here is our email ready to go. Again, we can come in here, make any tweaks we want, but it ran the process. It got our data, it did the analysis, it gave us a chance to review and approve, and now the email is ready to go. How cool is that? So now with our agent built out, it's time for testing to make sure that it can handle the things that we're going to throw at it. So to do this, we could just, click the execute workflow button and kind of see what happens. But another thing we can do is we can ask our AI agent requirements chat, where it has the blueprint and the system prompt, all that information. Can you help me develop a testing plan to make sure the agent is dynamic, capable, and stays within guardrails? And now we won't have to use everything in the testing plan. It may give us some tests that just, don't necessarily make sense or aren't perfect, but it's a framework we can use so we make sure we kind of capture everything. The AI tool might think of things we didn't think of, and this makes sure that we have a really solid and stable product. So the testing plan overview. Test phases are unit tests to make sure that the code node functions correctly, integration tests to make sure the data flows end to end, guardrail tests, so validating the behavior under risky scenarios, and regression tests, so rerun a fixed pack of test cases every time you change everything. So that's interesting. Basically saying, take the same data, which would in theory be our January to June 2023 data, and run it through to see if you keep getting consistent results. So we have our unit tests, make sure that there's no variances at $49.99 or, that 5,001's included. All right, favorable, unfavorable classification. That we can kind of just test. We don't have to run a specific test. We can just review our commentary through a couple of iterations and make sure that that's being followed. All right, integration tests, end-to-end data flow, so file discovery, have the correct files existing, what happens if there's multiple similar files, if it's correct, the workflow runs clean, sheets containing blank rows, extra columns. So basically just making sure all of the files are coming in correctly. Capability tests, checking the output quality, making sure the required sections continuously appear, no hallucinated causes, and guardrail tests, not automatically sending, no prompt injection. Fortunately, we're not using prompting, so we don't have to worry about prompt injection. A daily stress test, and then too many locations overload. And then lastly, that thing that we talked about where we just run with the same data every time we test. So I think the biggest test we can design as I'm looking at this is we can run the workflow 3 times. And when we run the 3 times, we're going to pull up what we get out of the chat. And when we run the workflow 3 times, we're going to pull up the output we get, and we're going to see if it meets our guardrails, if we're getting a consistent output, and that'll be one of the biggest tests for us here. So let's go ahead and do that. And I'll have to have my Gmail open because I'm going to need to approve the messages so the workflow keeps coming. All right, so we've got our mail ready to go. We've got the agent. Now let's do 3 runs. So let's go ahead and execute. All right, you can watch it running through the process. It's currently downloading the files. All right, it's running the code. Now it's fed it to the AI agent. Just incredible how fast these things run, isn't it? Now this could take, this one will probably take 30 to 45 seconds. These things could take 20, 30 minutes, depending on what you feed it. Nothing to be concerned about if that happens. So you'll see the agent still running. Now, when it goes to the send a message, that's where we'll have to go to the email and approve it just to keep the process moving, which is a check also to make sure that we're getting the email. You can also come over to details over here, and it will show you what's being fed out of each step. So you can kind of follow along if you want to. But we can go back to But with that, we can go back over the overview. Oh, it's interesting here. It also shows you the number of tokens that you're running, so you can kind of keep track of your usage. Yep, so we're up to 45.99 tokens. All right, it sent a message while I was talking about all of that, so this ran in, looks like just under a minute. Here's our approval email. So note we had a little bit of a HTML mix-up right there, but let's approve this. All right, and it's going to be finished. All right, so workflow executed successfully. That means we should have our draft over here. And there it is. Okay, so there is draft number 1. Now let's come back. Let's run this again. I'll try not to go off clicking on other buttons and talking this time so we can see when the agent finishes. All right, it's processing the agent. Should see the agent engage the model shortly. There it is. All right, now the chat model's processing. It's just fascinating to watch these things work. Man, even 3 years ago, this would have been impossible for us to build. Here's our next message. Now, interestingly, I'm already seeing we did get a little bit of a different layout here. So we got a table in this one, which we didn't get in the first one. Doesn't mean anything's wrong per se. It just means it was different, which we need to watch out for. So we'll approve that. And that run is complete. All right, and then let's do a third run. All right, we're executing it again. Downloading, extracting, running our code, and we've moved on to the AI agent. All right, the agent has engaged the chat model, and the chat model's running. And you can always watch it down. You can always watch it down here in the logs, or you can watch its progress up here. Whatever is red and spinning is what's running. All right, now we're at send a message. Here's our third email. So we got a table again this time. We'll go ahead and approve that. All right, and the last run should be complete and executed. And here are all 3 of my drafts. So here's the first run and the second run. So the first run came in. What's interesting is it's saying that the top variances were not quantified in the data set. It's also saying the POS highlights were not available in the data set. And it didn't give us this nice little table like we have over here. But the rest of the structure is there. So we got the subject line is consistent. There's an overview, the executive summary, top variances, a little bit better in the second run, but not inaccurate in the first run, just a different format. We want to qualify or specify what that looks like. Here's our risks and our watchouts and next step. So it's getting, what we're seeing here is consistency among the layout and the sections, a little bit of a difference in the format. And we've also seen a couple issues where it's not consistently recognizing the data that's being made available to it. And then if I look at, let's close the first one and do the second and the third. Okay, I get a little bit more consistency here. So these are nearly identical. And remember, we turned down the temperature so it would give us consistent inputs, and we are seeing that here. So we're seeing quite a consistent answer. Got a few more drivers here, but risks, watchouts, next steps. It's all fairly similar. We're getting to very similar outputs. I might honestly turn the temperature down just a little bit. And I do like the chart. The chart is very nice. So we want to see if we can adjust the system prompt to give us a chart consistently. We want to turn down the temperature a little bit so it gets more consistent and less random. And then we'll also just leave a note for it about the POS data sets not being available. Okay. Let's say I need your help adjusting the system prompt after my 3 test runs. Make the following changes. Always have favorable and unfavorable variances discussed in a table format. Review the entire data set, not just the first few lines when you evaluate what data is available. Multiple data sets are joined into one. I assume I have provided everything required and look for it. Okay, so this should fix the favorable and unfavorable variances. This should fix it seeing an issue with the point of sale data. And then once we have the system prompt, we have to manually go into the node and adjust the temperature there. All right, so we're going to let ChatGPT do its magic. These are exactly the right fixes. Okay, so it's going to do some hard requirements, some explicit instructions, and it's going to tighten the language. So here's our updated master system prompt. We'll let all this generate. We've got our role, our tone, data handling rules, mandatory output format rules, analysis rules. Here's our mandatory output structure. Notice now it's defined that this output will be a table, so that's great. All right, fail-safe behavior. All right, so that is our system prompt. Let's go ahead and copy this code in. We'll come over to our agent. All right, here's the system prompt. We'll paste that in there. And then under options, all right, under options, oh no, the options, we have to go down to the chat model. Let's go to the chat model. Our option here, sampling temperature, and let's set the sampling temperature to 0.2. That will make sure we get a more consistent response. Okay, and now again, to the point of the AI tool, we're going to use the same output. So we're not going to have anything changed. Now to the point of the AI tool, we're going to use the same input. So we're using the exact same data files for this run. So let's run this and see if we get any change in our output. All right, we're running, we're downloading the files, we're extracting, we're coding, we're running through the AI agent. All right, so the AI agent has now engaged the chat model, so it's processing the data. All right, it's sent the message for approval, so let's go move the workflow along. Okay, and here's our new draft. So we don't see any notes about data being missing. We've gotten comments for everything. Here's our executive summary. Top variances came in a table as we asked for. It has our point of sale highlights this time. Note, it didn't even give us that HTML node at the top, so that was cleaned up. Overall, a really solid email. And this is exactly what we're looking for in testing and tracing. No matter how refined you get the AI agent, you're still going to want to go through and do that last 20%, that polish, double check some of the numbers, make sure everything is as it should be. But we're looking for that improvement towards. But as we test, we're looking to keep. But as we test, we're looking to keep improving the 80%, that output from the AI tool, towards our guardrails, making it more consistent, more reliable. Anybody should be able to come in and run this with stability. And that is our goal when we do testing. Now for this example, what we're going to do is build a daily liquidity analysis for our treasury team to review. This is going to look across bank accounts to make sure that we don't have a risk anywhere, that we're not looking at low balances or unusual balances. And it's also going to look at our banking transactions to make sure that in the transactions, we're not seeing anything out of the ordinary, anything that could potentially be a fraudulent transaction or major things like that. So let's run through each part of our process, starting with the process map, the most important part. Step 1, start and triggers. So what triggers this? Well, every day, the banking statements come in at 6 a.m. So we just want this to run every day at 7 a.m. So the trigger is going to be every day at 7 a.m. We know all the banking statements from the prior day are downloading. We get those in, and 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. will give us a little bit of a buffer just in case anything is going wrong. Now, what are we looking for? We're looking for bank account balances and bank account transactions. Now, these could be individual statements, these could be an automated feed, what have you, but we're looking for those two separate things, our balances and our transactions. But we also want to say we want this to be both current day and prior days. So we want to emphasize that we can look backwards at trends, and we can also look at current activity. So then what are some decisions and rules? So what would we consider material? So we want to say anything negative or close to 0 is a red flag. Let's say transaction should only be flagged if they are unusual and plus or minus $1,000. So anything negative or close to 0 in an account is a red flag. Transaction should only be flagged if they are unusual and plus or minus 100. And account balances should flag if the balance changes more than $50,000. All right, let's drag this down a little bit so we can get some extra space. All right, there we go. So there's our decisions and our rules. And then what is our output going to be? So our output is simply going to be an email notice with any major changes. So we're going to output an email notice to key stakeholders with urgent updates. Now, this doesn't need to be fancy. This is going to be to the key stakeholders who are part of the Treasury team who need to see this. This is just kind of your, I'm walking in the office, what do I need to know? Doesn't need to be fancy, don't need any pretty charts or graphs. It tells you if you need to look at something immediately or if reviewing account balances can wait. So that's our process map. Now let's go ahead and snip our process map so we can feed it into ChatGPT. Okay, I am snipping our liquidity summary. Here's our snipper right there. We'll put this here, and we'll go ahead and paste this in. And now we'll pull out our same trusty prompts to start going through the agent requirements. Then we'll go through the agent blueprint. Then we'll go through the system prompt. All right, so here's going to be our agent requirements. All right, no changes from before. It's going to be act as a skilled financial analyst using the process map I provided, create the requirements, should spell out purpose, inputs, rules, outputs, knowledge, tools. Ask me any questions you need. We'll send that away, and we'll let ChatGPT do its magic. All right, and here is our agent requirements document coming back. We've got our purpose section. There's our inputs. There's our rules and decision logic. There's our outputs. Here's our knowledge coming in. Oh, I just love AI tools, don't you? There's tools. And then open questions we may need to define. So let's see. What defines close to 0 for balances? So we'll say close to 0 is less than 10% of the usual balance. Unusual transactions should be a statistical deviation. I really appreciate it giving us kind of multiple choice here. Let's see, who receives alerts, multiple roles in Treasury. Oh, I see, they receive the same alerts. I do want a daily summary regardless. It can say everything is fine. Any regulatory or audit expectations? No, this is not auditable. This is a thing to look at, to go look at the auditable records. No, this is not auditable. And let's see, then read only. This will be read only forever. We're not going to go in and start changing bank balances. So we'll send that off, and now it's going to come through and it's going to adjust our agent requirements based on what we've given it. All right, and here's the new document coming back. We'll give that a second to populate. All right, and here is our updated AI agents requirement document ready for us to copy and paste. We'll go ahead and take this out. All right, we'll go ahead and paste our AI agent requirements in here. And this is our agent requirements document that we can use for our liquidity agent. All right, so with our requirements done, now we can go ahead and move on to our agent blueprint. We'll bring our prompt over. Here's our prompt. Act as a skilled financial analyst. Using the agent requirements you helped me right above, create a blueprint for my AI agent. I will be building the agent at N8N. It needs to include the role, responsibilities, inputs, workflow, output, guardrails. Ask me any questions you need to give the best possible output. We could attach this if we were working in a new chat, but because we have it right above, if we stay in the same chat, we can just send it away and use the context, the memory, the retrieval augmented generation to pull all that in. All right, we'll send that away and we'll see what we get back. And it's already running. So here comes our AI agent blueprint. We have our role definition right at the top. Here come in our responsibilities. All right, there's our inputs. So our daily statement data, our historical data, how we're going to configure it. It's going to run at 7 a.m. daily. And then here's the workflow. So we're going to have a trigger. We're going to have to do a data ingestion. We're going to have to do a data ingestion. I'm going to normalize and prep it. We'll do some baseline calculations. We can also, tweak this as we go. We can give the AI feedback. It's just a really good framework for us to use. We'll have our rule evaluation. We'll assemble the daily summary object. Then we can generate an email narrative. Then we'll send the email. And then if we want to, we can do an operational logging that this ran. And then our outputs are going to be our daily liquidity summary email. And finally, our guardrails. So permission and action, accuracy and safety. So it's read-only. We're not going to be writing bank values. We're going to make sure it doesn't fabricate anything. We're not going to send multiple emails. It'll just be one. And then it's got some questions for us. So our bank data source. Bank data source will be CSVs in Drive. Look back window should be 90 days. Let's see, statistical deviation. Let's say simple z-score. Do I want the top 5 largest? Yes, that sounds good. All right, now it's going to tighten this into the node-by-node build sheet for us. So our blueprint's running through the new workflow. Not a ton of changes. It's just kind of customizing it for the few questions it asked us. Getting down to our baseline and our rules. There's our top transactions. Working through JSON. Pulling in our AI agent node to draft our emails. So again, not a ton of changes from the last one we gave us, which is good. It means it's kind of in a consistent structure, but this is allowing us to get some of those questions answered to make sure that we have exactly what we need. Outputs and guardrails, so we are just about done. Last couple of questions, we can jump over those for now. Let's go ahead and just grab Let's go ahead and just grab our information and bring it over to Word to save it. All right, so there is our agent blueprint. I'm going to put our agent blueprint in Word, and we'll go ahead and save that. So we've got the requirements done. We've got the blueprint done. Our last one here is going to be our system prompt that will be, so we've got our requirements done. We've got our blueprint done. Our last piece before we start building is going to be our system prompt. And the system prompt is going to allow us to build the brains of the operation. Go ahead and paste our prompt in. Act as a skilled financial analyst using the agent blueprint you helped me create the master system prompt. I will be building the agent in N8N. It needs to include the role, tone, rules, behavior. Make sure it's reliable, including step-by-step reasoning, rules, templates, and fallback behavior. And then, as usual, ask me any questions you need to give the best possible output. We'll send that away and let ChatGPT do its magic. All right, and here comes our system prompt for our liquidity monitoring agent. We have our role there, our tone, treasury professional, concise, plain English. Have our input contract. So here's what you're going to get through a JSON object, the daily payload. You've got the output. Oh, this is good. You must rely only on the input. If something else is missing, follow the fallback behavior. We have our non-negotiable rules for reliability. Here we're getting down into the behavior and the step-by-step reasoning process that we want the AI agent to follow. Again, the more we want to let it do its work, but the more structure we give it, the less decisions it has to make, and that's usually for the better. Getting through all of our steps, now we're getting down to the output templates. This will give us an exact output for our email. And again, we're not setting this up to be fancy for executives. This is literally an update for the team to look at. Template if it's all clear, template if there's issues found. Here's our top 5 transactions. There's another template if there's data missing or a data error. And then we're defining our fallback behavior for what goes on if it's all clear, if there's an issue found, if something is missing. And then it's giving us a couple of questions, but I'd say overall, I am quite happy with this system prompt it gave us. Let's go ahead and copy the code out of here. So here I've got a system prompt file set up. We'll go ahead and paste that in, and there is our system prompt. So we are now ready. We've done our steps. We've mapped this. We've done the requirements, the blueprint, the system prompt, and now it's time for building. All right, and now let's get started with our build. So our first step, we're going to do a trigger, and this trigger is going to be daily. So we want the trigger interval to be days, every single day. We want this to trigger at 7 a.m. as we discussed, and at minute 0. So this will trigger right at 7 a.m. We can go ahead and execute that, and there is our output. Beautiful. Now the next step, we're going to set fields. So this is going to allow us to input any variables that we want N8N to be able to carry along. Now for setting, we're going to use JSON. We can wipe out everything in here, and we're going to pop in the source folder ID. Now, just like all of our other examples, we're working with the F9 Finance coffee shop, but instead of looking at our financials, we're going to be looking at our liquidity, our bank balances, and all of that is in this banking folder. So that ID that I pulled in is going to be this ID right here. You'll see it starts 13Y, and there is our 13Y. So this is going to let us pass our source folder throughout the entire workflow. So when we work with other Google Drive nodes, it can just pull our data down. We'll execute that step, and you'll see here is our JSON, and it's outputting the source folder ID as an object that we can pull in along the way. So that's our edit fields. Let me start to give us a little bit of space because we're going to lengthen this out here. All right, there we go. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go to Google and we're going to search files and folders. So we can pull up our Google Drive, and we're going to want to search files and folders. So this is going to let us see the names and the IDs of all the files in here. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to connect with our Google Drive account. We want file folder. We're going to search. We're going to do an advanced search with a query string. We'll borrow this from some of our previous examples, referencing the source folder ID right there. That's our query string. We're going to let it return every single thing in there. And the field we care most about it bringing in is the ID field. Go ahead and execute that, and we should get back our 2 files. Yep, there's our 2 files. There's our 2 files. Brilliant. Now that we've gotten the file IDs, let's go ahead and pull them down. So now we can use Google Drive again, but this time we're going to download the files we just found. So we're going to do a file, we're going to download it. We're going to do by ID, and we're going to pull our ID in from the prior step. All right, so there's going to be our two IDs. Now, there's multiple IDs in there, but N8N is going to run it repeatedly to download every single file. And then for options, because they're Google files, we want to convert them. So here's our conversion. Google Docs will go to HTML, Google Drawings will go to JPEG, Google Slides will go to PowerPoint, and Google Sheets, most relevant to us, will go to a CSV. So we can execute that step, and then we should see our files download right over here. Indeed, they did. So there's our two files, bank data day 2, bank data day 1. Now, I am being a little bit limited. Obviously, we talked about 90-day lookbacks and things like that, but I want to make sure you really understand the structure and how to build this versus just piling all the data in. So that is our executed download file. Then from there, what we want to do is we want to take that CSV file. Then we want to take that CSV file and we want to turn it into something that our AI will work with. And we're going to do this in 2 steps. So let's go ahead and go to an extract node. Now we're going to take the binary CSV data and turn it into JSON, which we can more easily translate into a string for our AI tool. So we're going to extract from CSV. The input binary field is called data. See right there, data, data. That's what we set it up as. And we don't need any options. It's just going to put this right into JSON for us. All right, there is our JSON output. Here is all of our bank balances, our locations, what's sitting in the accounts. Excellent. Now that it's extracted, we're going to go ahead and run the code that ChatGPT gave us. So let's go ahead and do code. Here we're going to run custom JavaScript code. So going back to our blueprint, here is the code that we were given. So we'll copy this code. We'll bring it over here. We can just overwrite everything already there. Brilliant. So we'll execute this step, and this will run our data into a format that the AI tool can work with. And here it is. Here's our concatenated AI input text ready to go into an AI agent. All right, so we've got data ready. Now let's build our agent. So we'll go ahead and we'll pull in our AI agent node. We're going to have this done from a definition below, and we want to pull in the AI input text. Remember, the prompt is where you feed in the information. We go to options to use our system prompt. So there's our message. We're going to require a specific output format, which our system prompt's going to handle. And then in options, we want to put system message. For the system message, we're going to come back over to our system prompt, and we're going to copy and paste all of this over. This is quite a long system prompt because we have those multiple templates that it's repeating. All right, we'll go ahead and pop that in here. So there is our system prompt. There's our information being fed in. Let's go ahead and execute. A chat model subnode must be connected. I completely forgot to put the chat model on. So we'll go ahead and hit chat model. See, even if you do this all the time, this is what I want to emphasize. Even if you do this all the time, you still make mistakes. So don't feel bad as you're going through this and it feels really clunky and uncomfortable. I've been building a lot of these agent workflows and I still just forgot to attach a chat model, which is kind of the most important part. So let's go ahead and pop this in here. Here's OpenAI chat model. I want to use GPT-5 mini, which will be really great for this. I'm going to use my responses API, and then I want to add code interpreter as a tool to be able to work with our files. Okay, so now that we've done that correctly and have the most important part, let's go ahead and execute the step. And now it's actually running using ChatGPT. So we'll let that node execute. It's going to pull in all the information, use the system prompt, go run the ChatGPT model, and it will come back with our information. All right, and it's run. Now it is saying it had some liquidity run issues due to some of the data was missing. So let's see. So some of the specific data it was looking for is missing, but we got it to run. So we'll come back and tweak that in our testing and validation step. But we have this running, and it is in an email format and using one of our templates. So that's great. So let's go ahead and come on to our next step. So our last step is going to be to send a message. So here's our message. Now you'll notice I'm directly sending a message, and I've usually said you don't want to just directly send messages. You want to put, a human in the loop, or you want to do some type of a review process, put it in a draft. But in this case, this is a daily update to the team. This isn't going to any executives. It may go to the treasury executive, but this isn't going to any executives who are expecting a polished document. This is a rough document just saying, is there anything we need to immediately look at? Or can we just start going about our day and going through the other things we need to do? That's the purpose of this. And it's daily, so it's okay. This is not a month-end package. It's okay if it just sends out immediately. So we're going to connect to our Gmail account. We're going to do a message. We're going to send it. Let's start for now, just going to me. Our subject line is going to be daily liquidity update. All right, our email type will be HTML. We're going to pull our AI agent output. There it is. Do we need any options? We could put options in here, but we don't need to right now. We could CC some of the team if we wanted to. But for now, we'll just go ahead and execute the step. All right, it has been sent. So we've got some good news and some bad news. The good news is our email ran and sent it, and it's running with the AI agent's content. Now, the bad news is we need Now, the bad news, or should I say the news of things we have to fix, in the testing and tracing process, we need to look at really two things. First of all, it's not formatting this email in a nice, pretty HTML format to read. We don't need to be fancy, but we need the email to be readable. And second of all, we see here that it's saying that there's some data that's not being provided. So we want to fix that in the testing and tracing process. But we have a functional agent that was able to run all of the steps. So again, if you wanted to, you'd be able to come right in here, hit the execute button, and all of the steps are going to work, knowing that those two things we're going to have to address and fix. But all of it is running for us, and we have a fully baked liquidity summary to work with. So let's work through our testing and updating process because we have those two issues we want to fix. Again, the first one is going to be we want to be able to pass through data even if it's not in exactly the perfect structure. We want it to be a little bit more dynamic. And second, we want the HTML to come out a lot cleaner so that we get a more readable email. It doesn't need to be pretty, it just needs to be readable, which it really wasn't. So that's going to need to fix two things. We're going to need to fix the code for our JavaScript that's creating the string of data, and we're going to need to adjust our system prompt. So let's go back to the AI. I need your help adjusting the system prompt and the JSON. Help make both more dynamic so they don't need to receive every specific piece of information. And this is actually not the JSON. This is going to be the JavaScript. I need help adjusting the system prompt in the JavaScript. Help make both more dynamic so they don't need to receive every specific piece of information. Have the JavaScript stringify whatever it receives and have the AI agent work with whatever it receives from the string. All right, we'll send that away and we'll hopefully get back a shortened, condensed, simplified JavaScript and a slightly tweaked, again, simplified and condensed system prompt. So it wants less brittle plumbing. The JS code node should stop trying to understand the data, just package it into a string. And the system prompt should not expect a perfectly shaped JSON. So that's what we're looking for. It's just being too specific. Right now it's saying, hey, I need these 5 exact things. Otherwise, you can't do the work. What I want to say is these aren't perfect. If it's perfect, if it needs to be these exact columns and these exact rows, that's really robotic process automation, not AI. We want to leverage the ability of this to actually do work and to think along the way. So here's our updated JavaScript. You see it's safely stringifying with truncation guards, giving a basic shape summary. All right, there's our AI input text for the JSON. And then here's the updated system prompt coming in, which again should trim this down and make it a little bit easier for the AI tool to function. So while that's coming in, let's move the JSON over. We'll go ahead and copy this code. We'll bring it to our code right here. And I keep saying JSON. This is the JavaScript. So let's pop this right here. All right, so we'll execute that. So here, this is the dynamic stringify. It's going to take whatever comes in, make it one text, include minimal metadata to tell AI what's coming, and then send it along. We'll see if we've got our updated system prompt back. There it is. So we'll come over, we'll go to our system prompt. We'll update this. All right, and then we're just going to run the full workflow to see how this goes. So we'll execute the workflow. There it is triggering. We're downloading the files. It's already moved on to the AI agent. Now, again, this can take 20, 30, 40, 50 seconds. AI agents do take a while to run. They're doing some reasoning, some planning. So it's not really concerning if this takes a little while. We've got that node executing over here. It's been running for 18 seconds so far. It's already engaged the chat model. I'm also now realizing I can't remember if I told it to fix the HTML, so we may need to go back and do that as well, but we'll see what we get. Because remember, when this is done, it's going to automatically send the email, so we can just go right to the email to check and see what we got. Okay, and here is our output. It looks like we got a lot more information this time. Let's go check our email. Okay, here is our summary. So I did indeed forget to tell it about HTML. That's okay, we can go back, but it is doing information. If you remember last time, it said everything was not provided. This time it's saying it looks a lot better. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take this and I'm going to copy it over and say the updates were great. I need one additional update. The email looks like the below. I need to make sure the output is structured and in HTML. It looks like the below, which is not easy to read. All right, so there's that. Let's paste in what we got, just that big old block of text. We'll send that away, and then this should just update the system prompt. This shouldn't have a need to update the JavaScript. All right, so making the system prompt output HTML only, forcing line breaks and white space. And it's saying we just need to do a drop-in for the output section. So we don't need to do everything. We're just going to fix the output format. If we got style guidelines, structure, template. And once this is all done, we can copy it and just drop this in. Again, it's not having us replace the whole system prompt, just the output section. Giving us a very nice full-on structure here. We're down to optional data notes. Looks like we should be almost done. Here's rules if there's an issue or if there's none. This is going to be a great email if this works. Next step bullets. All right, there it goes. So we'll go ahead and copy this code in. Go over here. We will update our system prompt, just the output section. So we'll scroll down to output. See, it said plain text only originally, so we'll go ahead and be able to fix this. Final instruction. Okay. There's that, and then we'll pull out the final instruction because it's saying return the plain text, and we don't want that. And we'll come back again, and we will execute the full workflow. Downloading files, extracting, coding. Now the AI agent is running ChatGPT. I'm excited. I think this could be the time. So coming over to our email, this was the time we got it working. Look at this email. Here's the coverage. Balances were detected. Yes, it didn't see the transactions. Here's the executive summary. 1 negative balance. Oof. 3 accounts scanned. Total 4 items to review. Here's what we want to review. We have a negative balance, large day over day moving, and balance changes. It's probably routine, but still something to look at. Over here, though, we need to make sure we have this massive transfer plan from the settlement. No transaction level records provided. We have our data notes, and then we have next steps. So the first thing to do is to review the negative balance in the Astoria operating checking account. But there it is, our well-formatted daily briefing. Can you just imagine how much easier your day would start getting an update like this without a single person have to lift a finger? How cool is this? At this point, you've crossed a line most finance teams never do. You didn't just experiment with AI. You didn't just build a clever agent. You built a system that runs as an integrated part of your month-end close. Think about what just changed. Before, month-end meant chasing files, rewriting the same commentary, copying numbers, and burning time on work that looked different but wasn't. Now, the heavy lifting happens automatically. Your role shifts from doing the work to reviewing the work, just like it always should have been. And that is the real upgrade. And just as importantly, you didn't build something fragile. You built something understandable, repeatable, and auditable. In Module 6, our final module, we're going to lock this down. We'll talk about things like testing, guardrails, controls, and governance. The pieces that make this safe enough to run in a real finance organization without causing panic. Because automation only matters if it survives its first contact with a controller or a CFO. You've built the engine. Next, we make it production ready.